Welcome back to Calculated Education. Today we're taking a look at GRE Quantitative Analysis practice question. In this case, we're given that y is less than x, which is less than 0. So both values are going to be less than 0. We're given quantity A is the absolute value of x, and quantity B is the absolute value of y. Now in this case, right, that means both values are going to be negative, but y will always be a greater negative value than x, right? For example, you have negative 2 is equal to y, right, which is less than negative 1, which would be equal to x, which is less than 0. Right, no matter what y is, y will always be, let's say for example, it could be negative 1.001. Right, and if we took the absolute value of these, x, y would be greater. Correct? If we took the absolute value of negative numbers and I had a more negative value, which I know it sounds confusing, we would have a greater quantity. So, right, the absolute value of negative 1.001 is going to be 1.001. The absolute value of negative 1, which is x, is going to be equal to 1. Right, so which one is greater? In this case, we know that y is always going to be greater, which is quantity B, when it's the absolute value of y. If these were just regular values, x and y, we know x would always be greater because we're not taking any absolute values, and it's given in the inequality that x is greater. So here the key to look for is where is y in relationship to x, and if I was to take the absolute value of both, do a few examples if you have to, and see what comes out to be greater. In this case, it is y. That's it for today's practice question. If you want to see your questions answered or have any additional insight, feel free to email them to calculatededucation@gmail.com. You can book a private session with me at the link below for any additional tutoring. And then please feel free to like, subscribe, share this with your friends who are prepping for the GRE. The more practice you get, the better you'll be.